What's up, everybody? It's Izzy, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the size of a lifter and how that might impact their training in terms of frequency. So one of the great things about being a coach is that you get to work with a lot of people, which over time, if you're meticulous, means that you have a lot of data on what works and what doesn't, and you can break it down into different demographics, small females, large males, whatever. You have data that spans the spectrum. And in powerlifting, what I found is that there are very few things that are universal. And what I mean by that is, there's very few things that almost every single good powerlifter does, or that is true for everybody, right? Like low bar squats. Almost everybody squats more with low bar, but it's not universally true. There's other ones as well, right? Like, generally speaking, a lot of female lifters do better with sumo, but that's certainly not universally true. What I want to talk about now is a pattern that I've noticed that, while not universally true, is pretty close. And that's that, in my experience, super heavyweight lifters need to train a lot less than their lighter counterparts. And this isn't just my observation. If you look at the Norwegian training system, which is probably the highest frequency training system out there, they have people doing, some form of squat, bench, or deadlift 6 times a week. But super heavyweights train less, 3 times a week, 4 times a week. Even Shaco has the same type of thing. With his super heavyweights, less volume, less frequency. And in my experience, I've also found this to be true. So one of the biggest mistakes that I made when I was newer to coaching is that I would put super heavyweights on similar programs to smaller lifters and just allow or hope that the auto-regulation aspects would take care of some of that. And what I found is that just does not work. And my experience has been that the bigger the lifter, in terms of the sheer amount of lean body mass that they have on their frame, the less likely that it is that they're going to be able to tolerate high frequencies. Now again, don't get me wrong, there are certainly exceptions here, right? Mike Teixeira automatically comes to mind. At one point, this is a guy that had a 700 plus squat, 500 plus bench, 800 plus deadlift, and he squatted 3 times a week, deadlifted twice a week, and benched 4 times a week. However, on average, people with tons of lean body mass relative to their height, people with high fat-free mass index levels, are not going to be able to tolerate frequency as well. And my experience with this has been that basically, the more trained that you become, the bigger that your muscles are, the SRA cycle lengthens. So that's the stress recovery adaptation cycle. When you're a novice, there are certain muscle groups that you can literally train pretty much every day. And then as you become an intermediate, maybe your ability to successfully overload them decreases to something like 48 to 72 hours instead of 24 hours. And then as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're able to produce more of a beating on your body in terms of sheer tonnage, just because of how big and strong you are, that SRA time elongates even further. So my experience has been that bigger lifters should train less. And now an important distinction here is that it really doesn't matter if this lifter has gotten there through performance-enhancing drugs or naturally. That's why I've seen that a lot of guys on performance-enhancing drugs, steroids, and things of that nature end up needing to train less sooner, because one of the primary benefits of steroids, of course, in fact, it's probably better for this, is building muscle, right? Steroids are probably more effective for building muscle than they are at building sheer strength. So again, what I've seen is that it really doesn't matter if the athlete is natural or enhanced. If they're big, and I mean in terms of sheer muscle mass, they generally need to train less. Now, of course, the next question that comes up that I get a lot is, how do you define big? I don't. I guess it's kind of like porn, you just know it when you see it. No, but in reality, you have to test some of the stuff on an individual basis, right? At the super heavyweight level, it's really obvious. Most super heavyweights basically will not do well if you try to get them to train anywhere near what more moderate-sized lifters can do. And if we're talking about smaller lifters, males and females, and I'm talking about really the smaller weight classes, like below 150 pounds, they can train a lot. They can do a lot of fucking training. more than anyone near 200 pounds can do. So if I was going to roughly break it up, right, I would say that, you could do it in almost 50-pound intervals, where people 150 and below are going to need to train way more, way more than, say, a super heavyweight. And a super heavyweight is going to need to train the least out of everybody. In that 200 to 250 pound range, assuming that you're not fat and you have a lot of lean body mass to you, you're probably not going to be able to tolerate the same amount of training that you see that is popular today among the 163, 183, 205 guys. Now there's exceptions, but in that near that 250 range, again, a lot less training tends to be effective. Everything else kind of in the middle, when we're talking about like 231, 242, 220, that really is very individual. Some of those guys, even if they're huge, can tolerate pretty high frequencies and pretty high loads. But in general, this exists along a continuum. So the smaller and less muscle mass that you have overall, and I'm talking about this in absolute terms, generally speaking, the less that you are going to be able to, the less muscle mass that you have overall in absolute terms, so not relative to your height or gender, generally the more that you're going to be able to train. And the bigger that you are in terms of sheer lean body mass, all the way up to super heavyweight, the less likely that you're going to be to tolerate high training frequencies and high training volumes. And like I said, guys, nothing in powerlifting is universal, but this is a rule for me that has shown up time and time again, and I have data on more than 100 clients that has proven this to me. So anyways, hope you guys found the video interesting. As always, my friends, good luck with your training. Have a nice day. Peace.